Oh my goodness. This White House election prediction poll for the Senate has just gone really aggressive. Now, Sabato's crystal ball did update the prediction, but there's not really anything, of note in the Sabato's predictions because they don't really think there's anything overly aggressive about it. But damn, the White House poll that they're predicting is quite aggressive, and in a lot of ways they really stand out. And to give them credit, they predicted the Senate majority correctly in the last three election cycles, and they were just one seat shy in 2022 of perfectly predicting the number of seats that both parties would win in the Senate and the House. And you know, um, they give some historical context, and then they rate each race, and give what they think is the most probable occurrence. So they first have a chart where they say that Democrats gaining 6 seats is a 4.1% chance of happening. Them gaining 5 seats is a 5.3% chance of happening, and them getting 4 seats is a 6.6% chance of happening. When you add up those odds, and they need to flip at least 4 seats to gain control of the chamber, you get 16% odds. So there's a 16% chance, according to this, that Democrats flip the Senate, and an 84% chance that Republicans maintain control. Democrats getting 3 seats is 7.5%, and them getting 2 seats is 9.3%, and them getting 1 seat is 9.8% odds of happening. So when you add those odds into the equation, then you get 42.6%. So there's a 42.6% chance that Democrats make gains, according to this poll, and obviously it's still very early. The chance that it breaks even at 9.5%, and then again 9.2% that Republicans gain a seat, 8.4% that they gain 2, 7.5% that they gain 3, 6% that they gain 4 seats, 4.7% that they gain 5 seats, and 2.9% chance that they gain 6 seats. So then they give other gains, but they're a lot less realistic. So I guess actually for the Democrats, I know he said 16%. Then throw in these other numbers for what it actually will be, because they didn't mention these outcomes. So it's actually 22.4% chance according to this poll, which is aggressive because I really don't think it's going to be that high. And then for the 42.6% chance that they gain seats, then now they're actually putting it at 49%. So again, aggressive. And looking at the projected lead they have in a lot of cases, it's a little bit crazy as to what they're actually saying and what, some of these odds actually are. So, I don't know. This seems a little bit sketch to me. Race to the White House. It seems a little sketch to me that that they're doing this. Sabato did make his new crystal ball. They did make their Senate ratings, which they have right here, and that's that. But again, race to the White House I think is incredibly, incredibly aggressive. In 2024, for the record, race to the White House is not shown here. When I said this in 2022, race to the White House also not shown here. So again, reliability, I'm questioning it a little bit, but let's just go through what they're saying. So they have Alabama as safe Republican, which makes sense because the seat flipped Republican in 2020 after a 2017 special election, and Republicans unseated an incumbent in a Democratic-friendly year by 20 points. It was the largest defeat for an incumbent U.S. senator since 2010, and again, it's one of the largest margins in history that an incumbent was defeated by. Because again, 2010 in Arkansas was the biggest then since the 1978 election in Maine, and really those two compared to like 1980 in South Dakota as well. And I think 2020 is even crazier because this happened in a Democratic-friendly environment where they made it out of 3 seats in the Senate and flipped the chamber. So Alabama makes sense as to why it's safe, and they didn't actually update this on the individual article, so I wonder what Wikipedia's gonna do on that front. Alaska, though, this is interesting. They're saying it's tilt Republican. Arkansas, Colorado, Delaware, nothing there, but the Florida special election they have is only lean Republican. The Georgia, they are outright saying tilt Democrat, whereas everyone else is saying a toss-up. Iowa and Kansas, they're saying likely Republican when the other polls are saying safe Republican, but it's not really that big of a deal. They have Maine as tilt Democrat, whereas everyone else has it as either a battleground or lean Republican. Nothing unique about Massachusetts or really Minnesota, but they are, again, saying Michigan's going to tilt Democrat, even though everyone else is saying it's only going to be a toss-up. Mississippi and Nebraska, nothing separates them from the rest, but Montana, they're saying is only likely Republican. New Hampshire, they're saying tilt Democrat, which is actually right in the middle of the pack. New Jersey, again, nothing unique, but they're only saying likely Democrat in New Mexico. North Carolina, nothing unique there, but they are saying that the Ohio special election is a toss-up, whereas every other pollster is saying it's either safe Republican or likely Republican. Oklahoma, Oregon, Rhode Island, nothing separates them there. South Carolina is saying it's likely Republican, everyone is saying safe. South Dakota, Tennessee, nothing unique there. Texas, they're saying likely Republican, which again isn't that unique. Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming, they don't deviate from the norm. So as everyone else is saying that Democrats are going to have at least 51 seats, they're saying only 50. And they have 48 seats for the Democrats, which is a lot more than what the other pollsters are predicting. It's crazy. So, first, we have to go over how these states voted in the 2024 elections. We're going to look at it for presidency first, and then we're going to look at candidate quality, and maybe look at some other specialized elections if we need to. But I think first we need to look at what happened in these elections, because I think that general political trends do bear a lot of weight. Not always, and there are exceptions to this rule, but first I want to look at this. Like, look at Alaska. They're saying tilt Republican. Donald Trump won Alaska by 13.1%. There is reasons to why Alaska can be competitive in elections, as we, saw with some House elections in recent history, but 13.1% was Trump's margin of victory. Looking at Florida, Trump won that state by 13.1% as well. Georgia, Trump won that state by 2.2%. Now, I'm not saying that the seat is going to flip Republican just because Trump won it. Obviously, in 2024, as I've mentioned on this channel numerous times, Kamala Harris lost 4 states that still elected Democratic senators. You can look at Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona as proof of this, and look at how they maintain their senators despite all these states voting for Trump. But I just think it's something worth noting. Maine, this actually is in line with the presidential election if you look at it, because Harris won the state by 6.9%, and Biden won the state by 9.1% in 2020. But then you look at the Senate race in 2020 that Collins had to have been elected to just to even keep a seat, and you'll see she won by 8.6%. So that's not always the most reliable thing on that front. Iowa voted for Trump by 13.2%. Kansas was 16.1%, so that actually makes a bit of sense. Michigan, again, voted for Trump, but we saw how that didn't matter for 2024. Montana voted for Trump by 19.9 points. New Mexico voted for Trump by only 6%. Voted for Harris, by only 6%. So that actually makes a little bit of sense, and I'm wondering why everyone else is so confident. Same for, Virginia, as to why even them are saying it's confident going to be safe Democrat when Harris only won the state by 5.8%. And New Jersey, Harris only won by 5.9%. So another point of curiosity, just in my opinion. Ohio, I don't know why this thing is going to be a toss-up. Trump won the state by 11.2 points. So we can look at candidates to see why. This is just what I'm looking at from initial, looking at the election maps. South Carolina, Trump won by 17.9 points. Texas, Trump won by 13.7 points. So that's just that. Now we can look at this and look at candidate quality and sort of get what they're saying. Now, Mary Boltoda filed paperwork to run for her own seat. However, she's also expressed interest in running for the Senate. And Tom Begeek, who is related to the Begeek family, has also been noted as someone who could. And he's obviously in the Begeek family, which has both Democrats and Republicans. Nick Begeek, the third, actually ousted Mary Boltoda from a seat in 2024 by a margin of about 3.5%. Notice how Boltoda actually won the seat by 10% in 2022, and she flipped the seat in a special election by about 3 points. Actually, now I just realized that she was only unseated by 2.5 points, not 3.5. You get my point. Boltoda is someone who has shown that she can win over Republican voters by being a Democrat to win in Alaska. So if she runs, I could see this Alaska race. I could see this Alaska race becoming competitive. The Republican only won by about 12 points in the first place, so it's certainly shown signs of being competitive. Um, and in 2008, granted, there was a blue wave with Ted Stevens being having scandals against him. The seat did flip, so it's not out of the question because the seat flipped in an election where, may I remind you, McCain can currently win the state by 21.5 points. So it's not totally out of the question, but I think it's unlikely that Alaska flips. So I think that they kind of are banking on Boltoda running in this because that's probably the only way that she has a real chance. Florida. I'm actually kind of curious as to what's happening here because for the Republicans, an incumbent was appointed because Marco Rubio was appointed to be Secretary of State under Donald Trump. Um, and um, and I guess part of this could be candidate quality because if Matt Gaetz runs for Senate, then that would make him probably an unattractive choice. And the only person who's declared is actually a podcaster to participate in the January 6th attack, Edward Lane. Ashley Moody, who is the incumbent senator, has filed paperwork to run, and there's several other representatives who have expressed interest. We don't know who's running on the Democratic side, though, and that's what makes me skeptical. We don't know who's running on the Democratic side, and it's shown to be a state that not only, not only did that not only is a pretty safe Republican state, but it's also a state that has swung hard to Trump recently, because he only carried the state by 3.4 points in 2016, but even in 2020, but even that was an improvement of over his 1.2 percentage point mark in 2016 when he won the election too. And in 2012, Florida voted for Barack Obama, who was a Democrat. So it's interesting to see, how this has shifted so far to the right, in recent memory. Um, and as even says here, that Trump, um, the Florida electorate has swung decisively towards the right in the Trump political era. So, you know, it's just something that I wanted to point out. And and yeah, so there clearly is some pro-Trump bias in Florida, and you could attribute it to the fact that Trump ran for the state, but Scott won re-election by 12.8% concurrently. Marco Rubio won the seat in 2022 by 16.4 points. Looking at gubernatorial elections, we can see that DeSantis winning by 19.4 points. So Florida has took a hard swing towards the right. It's no longer really a swing state, and that's why I see having a hard time flipping. Georgia, again, I think it's going to, looking at the hypothetical polling, Ossoff is beating Brad Raffensperger, but against a generic Republican, they are tied. So I have a hard time really believing that, Georgia's just going to be a tilt Democrat. I think it's going to really be a battle. I would not I mean, I think that Georgia will tilt Democrat, but it's pretty aggressive. Iowa, Kansas, not that far from the mark, so we don't really need to discuss them. Um, Maine, they're really deviating from the mark, and I kind of get it because Maine's a Democratic state, but we don't know who the Democrat is. Now, Jared Golden is running for Maine's second congressional district, which he's held for multiple years now, and that voted for Trump, as you can see here, in the last 3 elections by pretty good margins. So I think that if Golden runs, he has a good chance of unseating Collins. But if it's Troy Jackson, Janet Mills, or Shirley Pingree, I haven't really been able to see them win over um, Republicans the same way Jared Golden can. Susan Collins can win over Democrats, and I just think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I wonder if Philip Wrench can swing this election too, but Maine, I think, is going to be an interesting. Michigan again, the incumbent is retiring, and this is a state that's really a swing state. I would be skeptical. I mean, I'm not sure who's going to run for the Democrats or the Republicans. These are both wide open races, but it's just interesting. Montana, again, they're pretty close in the polls, but you'd be surprised that John Tester isn't one of the candidates running, considering how long he held the seat for, though he was unseated in 2024 by a pretty large margin. New Mexico, again, I'm not really sure what's happening there. Ohio, I'm really just not getting it. I mean, I get Tim Ryan might run for the seat and Sherrod Brown's a potential, but, I mean, didn't Tim Ryan run in 2022 and lose pretty badly? Yeah, he did. He lost by 6 points. This is not really a toss-up. I get there's an interim appointee, but, yeah. I don't get it. So that's that. You can see how candidate quality can really swing a race, but I'm also questioning a lot of these results of this poll. Certainly is interesting, though. This poll is really giving Democrats a chance, which I don't think any of the pollsters doing, and personally I'm not doing myself because I really only think that Maine and North Carolina have a shot at flipping. But they're saying that Alaska, Florida, Ohio are absolutely in this to potentially flip, and they're not counting out other races too. So they're absolutely giving Democrats a chance here, which personally I wouldn't, because Democrats got to hold all their seats first, and then they have to flip 4, which I would tend to doubt.